Hi there, and welcome to Live with the Paper Pixie episode 378. I'm Julie DiMatteo, the Paper Pixie, coming to you live from Alpharetta, Georgia. If you're watching us live, say hello and where you're watching from. And if you're new here, let us know in the chat as well. My amazing audience will give you a big warm welcome. I want to give a special shout out to my Pixie patrons. You'll recognize them in the live chat with a little magic wand icon next to their names. They are channel members here, and we'd love to invite you to join the channel membership, the Pixie Patrons. It's $4.99 per month. You get a monthly members only stream where I demonstrate 2 cards from start to finish, following 2 templates that you'll get a digital download for. I also share some behind the scenes sneaky peek stuff during the week, and you get the little magic wand icon next to your name, a shout out in the credits, and we'd love to have you join us. Our next Pixie Patron live stream is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I think it's episode 21, I think is the number for that. We'd love to have you join us. You can join the channel by clicking the join button beneath the video, or depending on what device you're using, there's also a link in the video description to join. So let's see, tonight I have a really cool box for you. I don't have my project sheet done quite yet, but it will be done tomorrow. It is a box in a shadow box. So I want to give a shout out to German demonstrator Andrea Schmidt from Stempel & Co. There's also a number of other demonstrators that have done similar boxes to this. This is the Paper Pixie version. I absolutely fell in love with the style, and it really is a box in a box. How cool is that? So I'm going to make this look easy for you. Well, I should say, I know it doesn't look easy, but I will make it easy for you. I'll have all the measurements for you. And if you want to receive my project sheet via email, you can join my email list. There's a little link in the video description, thepaperpixie.com/subscribe. I will email out the free project sheet to my email subscribers tomorrow, and I'll also add it to the video description as well. But at some point tomorrow, I still have to take a picture. I was spending so much time coming up with measurements that I ran out of time designing the box. But is that not so cute with the turtle? Oh my gosh, I love it. Anyways, let's see. Couple of housekeeping things. If you've got a question for me tonight, go ahead and put a Q in front of that question. That will make it into my queue. I'll save all of your questions till the end of tonight's live stream. That way I can focus on demonstrating tonight's project for you, and I will stay on till I answer all of your questions, but make sure you put a Q and save the Q for questions, please. Thank you. Let's see, when you shop with me, you earn Stampin' Rewards with Stampin' Up! On orders of $20 or more. All you have to do to shop with me is to use my magic shopping link, thepaperpixie.com/shop. That will auto-magically take you to the Stampin' Up! Online store and shopping with me. There's only 2 things you need to do to make sure you're earning Stampin' Rewards. 1, you need a Stampin' Up! Account, and 2, you just need to opt into the Stampin' Rewards program. It's just a one-time opt-in. The program is totally free to participate, and it is your rewards your way. You'll earn 10% back on orders of $20 or more, and you can save up your rewards. You can spend them as you earn them. They are good for 12 months. So if you earn Stampin' Rewards this month, you'll be able to, they won't expire until June 30th of 2026. So a whole year up to the last day of the month that you earned them in. Let's see. Also in the video description, I talked about this last week. We are in the midst of our sweet sale where you can buy one, get one 50% off of sweets and sweet products. So it's not just sweets you have to purchase to take advantage of the sale. It's also any products that are in a suite. And in the video description, I have a downloadable shopping guide for you that has all 260 some products that are part of the buy one, get one 50% off. And my best tip for you is to group like priced items on each order. You might need to place a couple of orders to save the most. And right around that $73 threshold is where that 11% in shipping kicks in. So if you place 2 orders and you're at that 11% threshold, the shipping cost is the same whether you did 2 orders or a single order. I've got a bunch of my customers that are taking advantage of that, and I love to see what you guys are getting with the sweet sale. So that shopping guide has all the products in order by price, so you can kind of pick and choose the items you want to add to your cart. You'll know when the 50% off item applies. In your shopping cart, there will be an offer label on the product that gets the 50% off. So before you submit your order, just double check and make sure you're getting the item half off that you expected. And I think that's the scoop there. Okay. Oh, Susan, thank you for the super chat. You're so sweet. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to flip the camera. I do have some show and tell from Nolan this week. We got our Nintendo Switch Monday. So we've been playing some Super Mario. What is it called? Super Mario Kart World. Anyways, that's the project. Let me grab Nolan's show and tell. It's breakfast for dinner again tonight from Nolan. So we've got a waffle, which I love that. And then we have eggs and sausage links in a pan. So that's what Nolan created for you guys tonight. He is our, oh my gosh, rising 4th grader. And Lily will be in 7th grade. I don't have any show and tell from her. But both kids are working on diamond painting. So I expect at some point in the near future, they will have diamond paintings to show you again. I feel like I showed them back in 2020. It was one of the things we did during the pandemic, and both kids were interested in doing them again. So it's summertime here in the DiMatteo household, so it's trying to find things for the kids to do. And here, really quickly, this is what my shopping guide looks like. It's 18 pages. You probably don't want to print it, but if you do, print it in black and white to save your ink. But this is available. This link is in the video description. And again, it's all 260 some products, part of the sweet sale, starting from most expensive all the way to least expensive. So you can kind of group like items together. One of the things I see that you guys are taking advantage of is designer series paper. So you could add a whole bunch of different designer series papers from the sweet sale, which are starting on, well, I don't have these aren't numbered in pages, but you'll see all these designer series papers. So you can, like, let's say you get 6 of them, 3 of them will be half off. Okay. And again, it needs to be products from a suite. So some designer series papers are not part of a suite. All right, so again, another shout out to Andrea Schmidt from Stempel & Co. She was my inspiration for this, and a number of other German demonstrators that have done similar boxes. I've seen square, I've seen ones with 3 individual boxes inside, 2 boxes, some really, really cute inspiration out there. So check out Pinterest. But I love, you guys know how much I love shadow boxes. Speaking of which, if you join my email list, you get my free shadow box worksheet. This is a slightly different assembly of a shadow box. So the worksheet isn't going to teach you how to come up with these shadow boxes, because this actually requires 2 pieces of paper in order to put it together. But you can make shadow boxes of not any size, but a reasonable size using my shadow box worksheet. That's a thank you for joining my email list. You'll find that link in the description. But I love this. It's so cute. And I think, like, the recipient absolutely could keep it stored like this, but they could also do something really cute with just the shadow box itself, put some treats in there. And it's a pretty decent sized box. The interior box, it's a little bit smaller than this because I needed to make it small enough to fit inside the shadow box, but it's essentially 2 by 3 by 2. Okay, it's a little smaller than that, but I won't give you all those crazy measurements. There'll be some crazy measurements today, but I tried to make this really easy for you to put together. So we're gonna start with, let's start with the shadow box part, okay? Get all my pieces and parts here. All right. So we're going to start with, now let me share the products we're using really quickly. I always forget to do that for you. The designer series paper I'm using tonight, which is where I usually start when I come up with inspiration for color schemes. So turtly cute, and I don't normally gravitate towards kind of the cutesy animal type products, but this one I just fell in love with. Originally I was like, oh no, but then I was like, oh my goodness, or I should have said, oh yes, it's really, really cute. So I love this polka dot pattern. We're going to use that tonight. Love the different turtle patterns. We're going to use this music notes, which I just thought was a cute contrast to the polka dots. I love the diagonal stripes. And a lot of these turtles on the designer series paper can be cut out with the dies. These are the Turtly Awesome dies, which you can get bundled with the Turtly Awesome stamp set. So fun. I haven't even put this on my magnet card yet, but there's 3 different turtles that you can cut out of the designer series paper or the stamped images. We're going to do that tonight. Joanna, welcome to the Pixie Patrons. And then my favorite stylish shapes. We're using the second and third smallest dies for this. I can't get enough of these. Obviously, if you've been around for a while. So actually, with the designer series paper, I was looking at all the different coordinating colors, and specifically with the polka dots, I believe the red in here is Cherry Cobbler. However, I felt like the polka dots were a little bit brighter. The red ones anyways were a little bit brighter, so I opted to do Poppy Parade. Real red would work as well, and so would Cherry Cobbler, but we're gonna use Poppy Parade. So I've got 2 pieces that measure, you're going to turn it this way, 4 7/16 by 7.5. Okay, so 4 7/16, that is just 1/16 less than 4.5. So if you go to 4.5, you're going a little bit too far. I'll explain why we're doing that 4 7/16, but 4 7/16 by 7.5, and we're going to do 2 pieces because ultimately we're going to attach these together to create the shadow box. All right. Let me get my Simply Scored. All right, so on the 7.5-inch side, that's the long side, we're gonna score at 3 inches and 7 inches. Then I'm gonna rotate counterclockwise. So I've got my little smaller section here along the bottom, and we're gonna score at 1/2 inch, 2, 2.5, and 4. Okay, so we started along 7.5 and we did 3 and 7. I rotated it clockwise, and then we scored at 1/2 inch, 2, 2.5, and 4. Okay, now I'm gonna rotate it back, so counterclockwise, back to that 7.5-inch side, and we're gonna score at 3.5 and 6.5, but I'm gonna stop at the second horizontal score line. So on my template here, we're doing, this is gonna be 3.5 and 6.5, but I'm stopping at that second horizontal score line, okay? All right, so 3.5 and stop, and 6.5. It's gonna look like that. Okay, so I stopped right there at that second horizontal line down. Now we're gonna repeat the same thing on the second piece. It's identical. So again, on the 7.5-inch side, 3 and 7. We're gonna rotate clockwise, score at 1/2 inch. Oops, as I jumped the track there. 2, 2.5, and 4. And then I'm gonna rotate counterclockwise, so coming back to where I started, we're gonna do 3.5 and 6.5, stopping at the second horizontal score line. So 3.5 and 6.5. Like so. See where I jumped the track? Nobody's gonna see that. It will be hidden. All right. So next we're gonna go ahead and fold and burnish on all the score lines that go all the way across the cardstock. So don't worry about folding and burnishing on the short score lines. Those are just there to help us cut with scissors. I love working with Poppy Parade because for some reason it's just a little bit stiffer than most cardstocks. I'm sure it's just the ink formula. There we go. I think those are all okay. I'm going to do the same thing to the other piece. yes, jumping the track happens. I do find it happens more with the stiffer cardstock, but it also depends on the angle that you hold your stylus and how much pressure you apply as well. And with the stiffer cardstock, I kind of just get my nails right there in where the score line is to kind of start to guide the cardstock. And I think, all right, there we go. So let me go ahead and bring in the template and we're gonna start to do some surgery here. I've got both templates on the same piece of paper because this is actually how I'm gonna add it to the project sheet. So we're gonna focus on this part here at the top. And the way that the easiest way for me to do this is I've got my two, I'm gonna turn it this way. My two short score lines I'm gonna have facing me, okay? But I'm gonna cut up, I'm not gonna cut up the short score lines yet. I know those are a little bit hard to see, but on the vertical score lines on either side, I'm gonna cut up each of those. This time I'm gonna stop at the third score line up. So, paper snips. So go up to the third score line, like so. I'm gonna do that on both sides. And again, I've got the short score lines closer to me. So I've cut up those if you're looking at it from this way, like so, okay? Now I actually want to remove, we're over here, the sections along the right here, and then I'm also gonna miter cut. So that gets removed. We're doing this kind of lower left corner. I cut from the back side. It's just easier for me to see my score lines. Okay. And then I'm gonna turn and focus on this side here. We're gonna create this tab. So I'm gonna miter cut here on the other score line. And then I'm gonna remove this corner piece. So now we're kind of looking at the bottom section here. So we've left our little tab there. And then along the bottom, I'm actually gonna separate these two sections and come in and miter cut. So I'm just gonna miter cut on either side of that score line. And then I'm gonna miter cut here right on the edge. So this part, the bottom part is done. We've got now two kind of tabs. They're both miter cut on either side. And then we've got our tab here on the side. Now I'm gonna shift my focus to the side that has the short score lines. And I'm actually gonna cut up each of those short score lines and I'm gonna stop where the score line stops. So that's technically the second horizontal score line on both. Like that. So now we've got these kind of loose flaps there. So what I like to do is fold this big section out of the way. Now we're actually going to be creating this diagonal cut, which is what gives a shadow box its frame look. Okay, kind of that beveled frame. So I am right-handed, so it is easiest for me to cut while it's always on the right. So I just kind of navigate my paper in a way. As we remove this tab, I'm going to cut from this lower corner up to that. So the lower left corner up to the top right corner. And if you do it in one fell swoop with your paper snips, you'll cut straight. So that's essentially what I just did right there. Okay. So I'm going to fold that out of the way. I'm going to flip it over now, fold this guy out of the way as well. And then same thing, lower left to upper right. We're going to cut on an angle, like so. So we just removed that. Okay, and that's how you get that sort of beveled look of a shadow box. Now, these two pieces here, the ends, I'm going to come in and miter cut. Get rid of these little pieces here. And this piece is cut and ready for designer series paper. And I know this is not, well, it's the same scale but smaller, like so. Okay, we're gonna do the exact same thing with the other piece, so we get a little bit of practice. Okay, I'm gonna put that one off to the side. And then again, I've got my short score lines facing me. I like to cut from the back side. So I'm gonna cut up each of these vertical score lines, not the short ones, but the ones that go all the way across. I'm gonna stop at the third horizontal score line. And I'm just cutting right down the middle of the score line. Like that, okay. I'm going to turn a quarter of a turn. We want to remove this and miter cut. So just a little bit of an angle there. And then I'm going to miter cut here, and we're going to remove that corner. Miter cutting both sides. And then we've got our tab left on the side, okay? And then remember on this side, which is here, we are gonna cut on either side of the score line, just do a little miter cut. And then one more miter cut here on the edge. Okay, so we've got those two tabs. And then I'm gonna focus on the opposite side again, this time cutting up the short score lines and stopping where they stop. So that's the second horizontal score line. And now I like to just kind of fold things out of the way to focus on kind of isolating those two strips. And I'm going to cut again at an angle from the lower left to the upper right, basically connecting diagonally from score line to score line, like so. And then I'll flip it over because I'm right-handed. Same thing, lower left, upper right. And then the piece looks like that, okay? Like so. Now, the last thing I have to do, did I do that on this one? Yes. I'm gonna miter cut these two edges. Wait until you guys see how this goes together. It's so cool. All right, so we've got our two shadow box pieces. Now what I'm gonna do is bring in some designer series paper. Get all my pieces and parts here. That's for the base. I feel like I'm missing a piece. All right, so this adorable polka dot paper, let me look at my measurements really quickly. I have two pieces that measure 1 3/8 by 3 7/8. Those are the long ones. If you were using a directional pattern, you want to make sure that's in landscape. And then I have two pieces that are 1 3/8 by 2 7/8. So the difference, this is only a difference in an inch of length. Again, these two are landscape as well. So 1 3/8 by 2 3/8, 1 3/8 by 3, sorry. 1 3/8 by 2 7/8, 1 3/8 by 3 7/8. Okay, all those measurements will be correct on the project sheet. So I am going to pretend like my paper is directional. So as I place the designer series paper on here, I want my angled pieces to be going up that way. Because the way that this box is gonna fold, our beveled edge is gonna be on the top of the box. So this is the right direction. If you have a directional paper, excuse me, you want your pattern to go from top to bottom with that little beveled edge above it, okay? So we're gonna take our pieces, let me get my liquid glue. And you want to make sure your paper's in this orientation, because if you put the designer series paper on here, it's going to end up inside the box instead of outside the box. So one short and one long on each piece. Okay, there's that one. I love the contrast with this white background and the pop of Poppy Parade. All right, there we go. Gosh, I love those polka dots, so fun. All right, now we need to connect these two pieces together. Essentially, we're going to be connecting it like so. I'm going to share a little tip with you to make sure that this is all straight and in the right place, and it is just to use your tools. So something that has a flat edge, I prefer using the Simply Scored. You could use your paper trimmer, but I'm going to pull out my Simply Scored. And let me pull these out of the way here. What I'm essentially wanting to use is kind of this 90-degree corner with raised edge to line up these pieces so that everything is straight along the top and the side. Everything's in the right position. I actually like to fold this piece underneath just to give me a little bit more room on the Simply Scored. So I'm folding it like that, and I'm putting that in the corner there. Okay, so everything's folded flat. And then I'm gonna basically, to glue these together, I'm making sure that these top edges are along the top of the Simply Scored. And I'm lining up this cut edge with this score line to connect the two pieces together. So again, let me just fold that. And actually, let's put adhesive on first. A little easier to do when you're holding it than on the Simply Scored. So like that, I'm going to place that in the corner again, making sure my left edge and top edge are lined up. I'm going to bring this guy in, same thing, lining up that top edge, but also bringing that edge right to that score line. And just give it a couple moments to line up properly there. There we go. Okay, so now we have one long piece. I think this is, let's see, 8. This is 14 inches long. Well, 14 and a half with the tab. So that wouldn't work with one piece of 12 by 12. So that's why we've got two pieces here. Okay. So let me go ahead and take the Simply Scored out of the way. I love using tools to help me get things lined up. So now the fun part is we're going to start to put our shadow box together. It's still in one long piece, but I've got it lined up where I have my little beveled edges here on the left. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to fold on the second score line from the left. And remember how this piece started out with that 4 7/16 measurement? That is so when I fold this flat, this edge is not competing with the score line. So it's just a 1/16 of an inch smaller because of the way we scored it. This here is a 1/2 inch section, and this is, let's see, 1/2 inch. Trying to, it's like 7/16, I think. That makes sense. Anyway, so it's just short. Then that way, when we fold this over, that cut edge is not competing with the score line, and this can be completely flat. So I'm going to take liquid glue. I'm holding it up, but normally I would do this on my work surface. I just want you to be able to see. I'm only putting liquid glue on that little short section there. Again, I'm folded on the second score line from the left. Now I'm going to fold on the first score line from the right. And just going to kind of hold that for a moment. So that's the first one, okay? Now we're just gonna move on down the line, same way. We're gonna fold on the second score line from the left, so pressing that flat, and then we're gonna fold that over. So liquid glue. You could use tear and tape for this as well, but I do find tear and tape releases after a while. So liquid glue is my preference for shadow boxes. After many, many years of using tear and tape, I love liquid glue more. So again, we're just working our way down the line, folding on the second score line from the left and the first score line from the right. And because we're only putting adhesive on this side, it's the shorter, which means glue is not going to go where we don't want it to go. Because this piece that we're folding over is longer. Okay? And then we've got our last one again, folding on that second score line from the left, put liquid glue along the tab. And then folding on that first score line from the right. Everything's flat right now. There we go. Okay, now when I pop these out, I think you're gonna start to see, kind of looks like a choo-choo train to me right now, like a bunch of train cars. We are essentially going to fold this into a rectangle. And the way that that's gonna go is the square piece, so the piece that doesn't have the miter cut, is gonna fold inside the miter cut piece. So see how the miter cut piece has at the bottom this little piece that's jutting out? That's gonna go on the outside, and so is the miter cut piece. Okay, so as I do that, I'm actually gonna fold this down for now because I wanna isolate this little section. I'm just gonna put a little bit of liquid glue right there. Just gonna anchor things a little bit more because as I fold this in and kind of create that corner, and again, you can use your paper trimmer or simply scored to do that 90-degree angle if you like. So as you can see, we've got our little, see that I jumped the track there, that's gonna be totally hidden. But so that little section just glued to the bottom of that, okay? So then we're just gonna work our way around, okay? Now again, I'm gonna put liquid glue in that little square section. And again, you want the square piece to go underneath the bevel, and it's basically sandwiching in between those two pieces. And again, we just put that liquid glue there. That's creating that corner, okay? So then we've got one, well, we have a little bit more, but in this piece, I'm gonna actually put adhesive on both of those little sections on the bottom, as well as on my tab, because this is gonna be like the last section to go together. I'm gonna bring in my Simply Scored for this, just to give me a little bit of leverage. So again, liquid glue that little section that's like jutting out on the bottom, and then on our little tab. Okay, so here's how this is gonna go together. Again, the square piece goes inside the bevel, like so, and then same thing here. The only thing I need to do is tuck this tab in, okay? So tab goes in, everything else goes outside, like so. I'm just gonna push that all into the corner here, kind of pushing on all four corners and down. It's so cool how this goes together. And once it's glued, wait till you see how sturdy it is. So again, I'm really pushing this right into this corner here. This is a 90-degree angle, and I'm just kind of pushing on all three corners into this upper corner. Then I can kind of flip this over and just press again on the bottom. But I'm telling you, this is like totally sturdy now. I feel like those ASMR videos where they tap their nails drives me bonkers. Okay, so this is the top, the one that has the nice beveled edges. The one that has the little square edges is our bottom, and I'm gonna put a piece of cardstock over that, okay? So that piece is just an easy 3" by 4" piece of cardstock. We're gonna layer that right over the bottom, like so, okay? So to do that, I actually don't need my Simply Scored. If you wanted to, you could put your paper here in the corner and then put your shadow box in the corner. That works too. So put glue on the shadow box, not on your 3x4 piece. So again, make sure you're putting glue on the square edges, not where the beveled edges are, because that would be the top. So like that. I've just got glue all the way around, and then I'm going to take my piece and just layer that on top, like so. And I'm just kind of with my fingers making sure that's centered, left to right, top to bottom. You have just a hair of wiggle room because of the way the shadow box goes together. And then once it's in place, I'm just going to press all the way around the perimeter. Is that not so cool? I mean, it's cool just as a shadow box itself, but we're gonna take it up a notch. So I'm actually gonna put a little piece of designer series paper right in the middle here. This is just extra. Normally I would tell you to do that before you start putting your box together. However, because this is just a flat 4x3" piece, I'm not able, I mean, I suppose I could eyeball it to put it in the center, but it's easier to do it once the box is together. So I'm just gonna take liquid glue. And then I like to kind of start it on the left, kind of get those two pieces in and then put my index finger in there just to kind of anchor it. And because I'm using liquid glue, I can just kind of shift that piece. You've got about a 1/16 of an inch of play. So once I get that down, I'm just gonna kind of hold it in place a little bit. And then I'll come in with my glue bottle and just having a flat surface to spread that all out. There we go. Isn't that so cute? Oh, I love it. All right, I'm gonna put this off to the side. Now we're gonna focus on the inside box. Now I am using thick basic white. You could absolutely use regular as well. I prefer the thick for boxes. Now don't kill me with these measurements. We're gonna have some challenging measurements. It's not challenging. I'm using 1/16 of an inch, but the score lines will be easy to do on the Simply Scored. So this piece measures, I'm not sure which direction it is because my brain is fried, but 8 5/16 by 7 15/16. So what that technically is 1/16 more than 8 1/4 and 1/16 less than 8. Now, the reason why is because I don't think I saved the other box. I did a box that was just a regular 2x2x3, and it was way too snug for the shadow box. So I needed to take it down a 1/16 of an inch, and I shared with my Pixie patrons a screenshot. I actually had to bring out a spreadsheet to help me with the measurements. Well, to help me with the scoring measurements. So that's the only thing that's a little tricky is the starting piece size, but again, it's really easy. It is 8 5/16, which is 1/16 more than 8 1/4 by 7 15/16. That's 1/16 less than 8, okay? And here's the cool part. Because of my spreadsheet, I was able to come up with good measurements for you. So along the 8 5/16, so if you're looking at your Simply Scored, look for the edge that goes up to the almost, well, a little more than 8 1/4. That's your 8 5/16 edge. And we're gonna score this at 3 7/8 and 7 3/4. Then I'm gonna rotate it 180, so back to the opposite 8 5/16 inch side. And then we're gonna score at 2.5 and 6 3/8. And what this essentially has done, I know it's a little hard to see, but each of these sections are 1 15/16, so just a little bit smaller than 2, okay? Now we're gonna turn to the 7 15/16 inch side, and this one we're gonna score, it doesn't matter which side because it's the same on both sides for this one, so 2.5 and 7 3/8 from each side. So I'm going to rotate it 180 and do 2.5 and 7 3/8. And that makes sure that all of our squares are the right size, okay? And that way you can use your Simply Scored. I get much more accuracy with the Simply Scored when I do that, okay? And don't worry, all those measurements will be on the project sheet. So now I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish on all the score lines. All right, let me bring in the template. So here's what we're working with, this one on the left. And I just want to kind of get my orientation. So you're going to have a grid where you've got, it's a little more than 1/2 inch on either side and then one at the top. So the top, when it's like that, the two narrow sections on the left and the right and the narrow section on the top, that's going to be the orientation of our box. This is the lid. This is going to be the sides that fold up. So I actually like to start with that narrower section towards me. Okay, so you got the two narrows on the right and the left, and this narrow along the bottom. I'm going to come in 2 score lines and cut up 2 score lines. I'm gonna cut right down the middle. And I'm gonna turn it 1/4 of a turn, and we wanna remove that whole section. So I came into and cut up 2, turning it 1/4 of a turn, coming into again and cutting up to remove that corner. Like that, okay? We're gonna do the same thing to the opposite corner. So I'm coming into from the left and cutting up 2. Turning 1/4 of a turn, coming into and cutting up 2 to remove that corner. Like so, okay? So now this is our lid, and I'm gonna have it turned, let's turn it this way, turned to the side here. And I'm gonna cut up each of the vertical score lines here. I'm gonna stop at the second horizontal score line. Okay, like so. I'm gonna turn this 180. And we're gonna do the same thing to the opposite side. So I've got my lid here now on the left. I'm gonna cut up each of the vertical score lines, and I'm going up to the second horizontal score line. Like that. All right, so ultimately, these are gonna fold in to start to form our box. We've got way too much bulk there. So I like to come in, you can either eyeball it and remove. So if we're focusing on these sections, you can just cut them in half. I'm just gonna use my paper trimmer for that because it goes faster. So what I like to do is we're wanting to keep, if I've got it in this orientation, I wanna keep the middle sections here. So I'm just folding that out of the way. This folded edge, I'm going to line up at 1 inch, which is the 4th vertical line on my paper trimmer, and then I'm gonna move it just a smidge to the right. And trim. Okay, so I'm basically leaving a little bit less than 1 inch behind. So I'm going to turn it, kind of just folding things out of the way. Got that folded edge here. I'm lining that up at the 1 inch mark. And I'm just going to slide it in a smidge because we want to cut away a little bit more than 1 inch. So then what you end up with, let me unwrap all of this, is something that looks like that. Okay. All right, so again, isolating those tabs, this is where we just trimmed away. I'm gonna come in and just miter cut those sections. Like that. I'm also gonna miter cut right here. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side, fold that section out of the way. And then a little miter cut here on this section. All right, let's clean up my mess here. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually round the corners. This is the top that's going to tuck into our box. And this is the little 1/2 inch corner rounder from EK Success. So around the corners, it's just a nice tiny little corner rounder like that. Okay. And then we're going to adhere some designer series paper before we start to put the box together. All right, so I have 3 pieces that measure 1 13/16 by 2 13/16. So that is just more than 1 3/4 by, hold on, by 2 3/4. So just go 1/16 more. So 1 13/16 by 2 13/16. That's just 1/16 more than 1 3/4 by 2 3/4. I've got 3 pieces of that. And then this is 2 square pieces that are 1 13/16 by 1 13/16. And again, that's just 1/16 more than 1 3/4. So we're going to put 1 on the lid. Now all of these, if you've got a directional pattern, you need to cut them in landscape, or the 3 pieces. Obviously that doesn't matter with the squares, but we're going to put it on the lid, the back, and the front. And just if you've got directional pattern, just make sure you're paying attention to, I would dry fit it and make sure you're putting your paper on the right way. And then these 2 square pieces are going to go on either side here. Okay, like that. So let me get my liquid glue. I love the contrast here now with the white box and the darker colored or brighter colored designer series paper. So for these, if you have directional on the squares, the top of the pattern is going to be here on the outside, top to bottom, top to bottom. This piece in the middle is going to be right side up with the pattern, so top to bottom. The top piece and the bottom piece from this view are going to be upside down, so bottom to top, okay? And again, that's if you have a directional pattern. There we go. Before we put it together, I need to punch a little finger notch. So I just have a little 1/2-inch circle punch, and that's going to be down here at this section. And I don't know, I'm coming in about 1/3 of the way into that 1/2-inch circle and punch and make some paper confetti. All right, so now the way we're going to put this box together is we're going to put adhesive on each of the tabs. So liquid glue on the tab, I'm going to line up this score line with this cut edge, like so, to create the box corner. So just pick a tab to start with. And then we'll make our first box corner there. Love liquid glue for this because I have kind of maneuvering my fingers inside and outside the box to slide that into place. Then we'll move on to the next tab. There we go. And you'll see when we cut that section just a little short of 1 inch, then those don't overlap. You can always trim away some more if you need to. And then just work your way around. And then the last one. All right, so now that we've got those in there, I'm just going to come in with my bone folder and just burnish those tabs down. It just helps to kind of spread out the glue and kind of help finalize their places. Like that. There's our box. So these little tabs tuck in and then the lid tucks in like so. So cute. And that's a good size box. Again, it's just about 2 inches tall, 3 inches wide, 2 inches deep. So you can put a whole handful of things in there. A gift card will not fit, in case that question's already been asked. But again, handfuls of candy. I'm sure you could fit like an EOS lip balm. I'm thinking those little ball lip balms. You could maybe fit a tea light or two. But I'm kind of picturing like a handful of treats in there, Hershey's Kisses, Hershey's Nuggets, you name it. So it's got a pretty good sized box, and you can absolutely decorate the inside if you'd like. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in our shadow box, and it fits perfectly in there. Now, empty, it doesn't really shake out. If I really shook this, maybe not. But if there was something heavier in there, that box would fall out. Now, if you intend for this to kind of be permanent, although I don't know why you would do that because it's just kind of cool. I feel like this is like a children's toy that would just be fun to play with. But you could absolutely anchor that if you wanted to glue it to the bottom. But let's have some fun decorating the top here. I'm going to, I have to do a little bit of die cutting. I've got a couple pieces already done, or at least one piece already done. But I've die cut this circle out of Pool Party, and the diameter on this from Stylish Shapes is a little over 1 5/8. It's like 1 7/16 in diameter. Nope. 1 and, just say it's a little more than 1 5/8. Let's leave it at that. And then let me bring in my turtle here and the smaller circle. All right, let's do some stamping. I know I've got, here we go. So scrap piece of basic white, and I'm gonna use Poppy Parade ink and the sentiment Sweet Friend. go. I'm just going to kind of trim that to save some space. We'll run both through the die cutting machine. And then I've just got this little guy. I cut him out from the designer series paper. Just going to isolate him a little bit more. All right, let's get this lined up really quickly. So sweet friend, I'm going to kind of center that in the circle. This guy, we're going to use the die. That looks good. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I do want to help him and put him on his feet though. All right, we've got our pieces and parts. I'm going to do this one, I think, just a little bit differently. So this one I felt like was a little bit too much off to the left. I don't know, that's just how my eyes saw it. So maybe we do... All right, so I'm gonna do liquid glue to the pool party stitched or stylish shape circle, just a little bit to the right. And actually, I'm going to take the box out. It'll give me a little bit more leverage. There's that. This guy, let's do... Yeah, that's cute. Okay. I like it straight. All right, liquid glue. Kind of like there. Just hold that in place. I'm just using liquid glue on these, and then I'm going to use dimensionals on our turtle. Just leveraging my desktop here to get that all pressed down. And then let's get some dimensionals. Probably a little overboard, but you can never have too many dimensionals. And then I just cut one in half, or you could use the mini dimensionals. Pop that on his head. And then I like to use my reverse tweezers just to kind of help me place things. Let's see. I don't want his feet to interfere with the finger notch here, but I'm okay if his head sticks up a little bit. That looks so cute. All right. And then one little rhinestone. And I'll just pop that right there. And is he not the cutest turtle you ever did see? And there we go, our box in a shadow box. Very unique gift box. Again, I want to give a shout out to Andrea Schmidt from Stempel & Co. for the inspiration, as well as lots of other people. I saw many different versions of this box, so take a look at Pinterest. I love the way that it goes together. And it's such a unique and special gift box. So again, join my email list if you want to receive the free project sheet via email, thepaperpixie.com/subscribe. You'll find that in the video description. I will also post a link to it in the video description here on YouTube, and I'll pin it to the top comment so that those of you watching the replay can find that as well. I will get that finished tomorrow, and let's get ready for tonight's Q&A. So again, just a reminder, if you joined us late, if you've got questions for me, go ahead and put a Q in front of your question. That will make it into my queue. Remember, I'm about 20 to 30 seconds ahead of you. So if for some reason I don't see your question at the tail end of the stream, just email me anytime at support@thepaperpixie.com. All right, let me tee those up. Let's see. Ooh, I got a tough question coming up first from Kay Jones. I love it. If you could bring back one item that Stampin' Up! Has retired, what would it be and why? Ooh, I think it would be, there's a few that would be on my list. So I'll give you, I think, the top of my list and a runner-up. The diagonal scoring plate for the Simply Scored. There's just so many cool things you can do with diagonal scoring. And in lieu of that, the runner-up would probably be the envelope punch board again. I just had so much fun with those two tools. So, and maybe runner-up. What do you say after runner-up? Circle punches, but those are slowly coming back. So I'm excited to see some additional circle sizes added to our punch lineup. So that's off the fly what I would like brought back. Good question. All right, so Sandra, if I order 2 sweet items, $150 and $140, and a $20 non-sweet item, is the half price discount applied to the $140 sweet item or the non-sweet item? It would apply to the $140 sweet item. It would not apply to the non-sweet item. But you do have to be careful. If you happen to add a lower priced sweet item, that's going to be what gets the 50% off discount. But in your example, Sandra, you're good to go. The 50% would apply to the $140 item because the $20 item is not part of a suite. Okay, great question. And again, double check your shopping cart just in case and make sure the item you expect to get the 50% off is getting it. And if not, you might just need to rework some things, okay? What plastic sleeves do you use to store your 8.5 by 11 cardstock? So I am using the C-Line shop ticket holders. They're the 9 by 12 shop ticket holders, and I trim them down. I don't know if you're familiar with shop ticket holders, but they typically have like a hole. There's a top section to it. I actually trim that top section off. And they just have a lot of space and they hold up really well. I tend to hold about a pack and a half of cardstock. I think you can get up to 2 packs in here, but it's pretty tight in my Stampin' Storage 15 slot paper shelves. But I usually store about, 36 to 40 sheets of cardstock in these, and you'll find them linked on my favorites page. So if you go to thepaperpixie.com/favorites and scroll down to the Amazon section, there's an additional button to take you to my Amazon store, and you'll find those linked in there. Again, they're C-Line 9 by 12 shop ticket holders. Oop, I think I just answered that, but in the sleeves, again, like I tend to put a pack and a half, which would be 36 sheets. So for example, when we get the new in colors, I usually order 3 packs. Is that right? Yeah, because I have double shelves. So I haven't organized the top shelf yet. The bottom one is in order with the new in colors. The top one is not yet, in case any of those are out of order. But I typically will order 3 packs of cardstock, so I'll put a pack and a half in each. So about 36 to 40 sheets is what's comfortable in the sleeves in the Stampin' Storage 12 by 12 paper shelves. Kindercrafts. Thank you. I'm so glad you love it. I'm thinking of making it fun for children. Do you think putting sticker sheets, cut to fit, of course, will fit and not be bulky? Yeah, I think I saw your follow-up addition to that. If you're going to put them under the treat box, that should be fine because you do have some play with, like, even if this bumps up just a little bit because you put sticker sheets on the bottom, that would be totally fine. I think that's a really cute idea, something fun for them to discover at the bottom. I love it. I do not have the glue bottle that I use on stream is the glue bottle that's in use in my craft room behind closed doors. Believe it or not closed doors. My craft room is a wide open space. There are no doors. But it's a habit of mine to pull the goobers off when I start crafting. Because a lot of times, I don't know, I'll get like glue inside the cap here and it'll stick to the edge. So I just have a habit of, when I get ready to use my glue bottle, I just kind of pinch and twist, get the little goobers off the end, and I'm ready to go. So yeah, believe it or not, this is the one I use. It's not a clean one for, normally when I'm live, you guys know, my bottle's almost always empty. I'm just always doing centrifugal force to get the glue to the bottom. Okay, so my spreadsheet, I don't know if I'll be able to explain this clearly, Nikki, but I essentially just did in Excel, I took the measurements of each panel of the box. So if I knew that I wanted it to be just a 16th smaller than 2, in one cell I would put 1 and 15/16. And the next cell I put 2 and 15/16. And then the next one, 1 and 15/16. Anyways, it's a little bit more complicated than that. But then that way I can kind of highlight cells to get to a score line that I want to use when I teach to you. So for example, even though we started with an 8 and 5/16 by 7 and 15/16, the score lines were on the 8th, at the 8th increments. And that's just because I used my spreadsheet to figure out, okay, well, if I do like the 2nd and 4th score lines in this direction and the 2nd and 4th score lines in this direction, can I give my audience nicer measurements for the score lines? Because I always find if I have to score at the 16th of an inch measurement, I don't enjoy it. I prefer to always use my Simply Scored because I can be much more accurate with it. So that's kind of what I do with my spreadsheet. I throw all the numbers in there and highlight cells and figure out if I might be able to give you, and this is my little like cheat sheet with measurements for tonight, if I can give you better measurements to make it easier for you guys to make these boxes. And again, my goal is always that when you watch one of my videos, everybody feels like they can walk away and give it a try, okay? Again, Max Capricorn, whoops, I didn't click the right one. Max Capricorn, it is Andrea Schmidt, SCHMIDT, from Stempel & Co. Her project is not on her website, it's just on her YouTube channel, okay? Believe it or not, Frances, she says, how many pairs of snips have you gone through to keep the edges sharp? You probably are going to think that I'm telling a lie, but I will tell you, this is my original pair of paper snips, believe it or not. I have not had any issues with, and I've been a demonstrator for 15 years now. I have a bunch of snips, but I purchased them for classes back in the day when I used to do in-person classes. So those just are sitting in a cabinet and I haven't used them. The way that I keep these sharp and ready to go is I make sure, probably from your perspective, you think I'm going to poke my eye out. I'm looking at the camera, I'm like, that probably looks bad. I just use alcohol wipes to make sure I don't have any adhesive on my paper snips. And honestly, they stay sharp, and I think they're probably technically a little bit self-sharpening when you open and close. But believe it or not, this is my first pair of snips. Kathy, she had a video, so I just kind of watched the video, even though, well, it actually was auto-dubbed in English, but it's funny when I get inspired by something, I skip through parts just to kind of get an idea of the assembly of the box, and then I put my own pixie twist on it. If there's a different way that I might put it together, So yeah, she's got a video tutorial. I think measurements are in her tutorial. They're in metric. This box is actually, I think, a totally different size than hers. I kind of winged it and came up with my own size. I kind of love that like 2 to 3 ratio of boxes. So that's kind of what I went with. Like a 2, well, this is technically 3 by 4. This is 2 by 3. So just kind of did my own thing with it. But I loved the style and design of a box in a shadow box. It's just such a cool look. This is all dependent on the project, Ruby. How do I decide when to remove the score line or cut up the middle? In probably 95% of the cases, I cut right up the middle of the score line. If there's a box that the mechanics of it needs just a little trim of cardstock to make sure like the lid closes properly or things fit together better, then I might remove the score line, but 9 times out of 10, I'm just cutting right up the middle of the score line, but it is project dependent. I don't think 2 K-cups would fit, Darlene. I actually think that K-cups are even taller than this. I think K-cups are taller than 2 inches. You know those little Nespresso pods? You could probably put a few of those in here, but the K-cups, you would not be able to fit 2 side by side. I'm not sure you could put 1 because I think they're taller than 2. We don't use K-cups, so I'm not positive, but if anybody happens to have the measurements of those, feel free to drop them in the chat. It's been a long time since I did a K-cup project. All right, Laura, blender pens. Can they be used with images stamped with our water-based dye inks? It's been a while since I've used them. Yes, so the blender pens really are intended to be used with our water-based inks. So ink, Stampin' Write markers, the water-based inks. Blender pens are not intended to be used with the alcohol markers. I don't even think anything would happen to the alcohol ink with the blender pens. But yes, blender pens with ink refills, Stampin' Write markers, ink pads. That works with all of those. All right, that is the end of the questions. You guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you enjoyed tonight's video or learned a tip or trick or two, please be sure to give us a thumbs up here on YouTube. And if you're new to the channel or you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified each time we're live, and we are live every single week on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be live again, let's see, next week is the 27th? No, 26th? I can't do the math. The 25th? Oh, goodness. I think it's June 25th. Anyways, that's our next live stream for episode 379. Tomorrow night is episode 21, I believe, of my Pixie Patron members only stream. Tomorrow night is the Stampin' Chat, where I will demonstrate 2 cards from start to finish following templates, and I will share those templates with my Pixie Patrons. We'd love to have you join us. The link to join the Pixie Patrons is in the chat or in the video description. Also, there is the shopping guide for the suite sale in the description. Be sure to check out the last chance sale. Some new kits dropped, the suite sale, lots of stuff going on this month. Next month, we can look forward to some new online exclusive products coming. I just got my pre-order a couple of days ago. I haven't even played with it yet, but good stuff that's coming. As always, if you need anything, just email me at support@thepaperpixie.com. Don't forget, all you need are stamps, ink, and a little paper pixie. And here's a special shout out to my Pixie Patrons. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take good care. Bye.